haven't watched any but the very last game of the finals. So this is all essentially new to me, even though I know who wins. And this is not a cast. This is not supposed to be, let's get hyped. I feel like the casters already did a pretty good job of that. We're going to be diving in. At points, I will pause the game or rewind or look at first-person perspectives or something like that, because we don't want to see what they do. We want to ask why and how to actually get something more from it other than just the sheer entertainment value. We're looking for the edutainment value. So with that, the WCS Leipzig Grand Finals Showtime, the German Protoss versus Serral, the Finnish Zerg. It's a best of 7, and the first map looks like it is Neon Violet Square. So, but yeah, once again, the objective is not to be the most hypest or anything like that. It's to actually really dive into it. We will have the score up here and all of that. I'm still going to go with the in-game music. It fits the best. Alright.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
Welcome back. So, PvZ, it's going to be a best of 7 of PvZ. Right now, and now this was played a little bit before the patch, which changed the Stalker to have less damage, but a quicker attack speed, and a nerf to the Hydralisk, where the upgrades were split. But overall, especially for lower level players like myself, those things don't have a major effect. They are mostly for Protoss versus Terran, and Zerg versus Terran. Well, Zerg versus Protoss a little bit. But overall, even with some of the changes that have been made, which are minor, the builds, even now, are not significantly different. We're still looking at the same style of play, the same decision-making, just maybe with a few more allowances, a few less drones here, maybe a little bit later on a third base here, things like that. That's the first disclaimer. But, okay, that music is that's very dramatic. Okay, that's, calm down. It does look like to start, it's going to be the standard. We have a pretty early scout out of Showtime. It looks like he scouted off of his gateway. And he's going for a gate expand. Gate, Nexus, Cybernetics Core is a gate expand. You get the Nexus before the Cyber Core because as long as you scout early and see they're not going for an early pool or a bunch of Zerglings, you don't need to have the Cyber Core right off the bat. There's not going to be anything, like, if the pool's not done, there can't be Zerglings in your base, very simply. So we do see that being the choice out of Showtime. Now, the prevailing strategy in Protoss versus Zerg out of Protoss players is the Stargate. Now, why the Stargate? Because it just forces... There you go. It forces a certain response and gives you certain options, especially on a map like this. And I say a map like this, Neon Violet Square is probably the largest map in the pool in terms of distance, and also the most defensible in terms of just the layout. Because as a Protoss player, you can build a wall at the front, and you have access potentially to the base at the back, which only has 4 mineral patches, but 2 juicy gas geysers. And Protoss is the most gas-heavy, especially early on, with most strategies. So, as a Protoss, getting a Stargate means your opponent, 1, aggressive scouting. That is an important point. Aggressive scouting. It's not just to try to do damage with oracles, or kill overlords with phoenixes. If you're in their face, threatening to kill their drones, you can also see things like, are you getting a lair? Do you have a lot of drones? Are you making Zerglings? You can get Revelation to tag those units. That's why the Stargate is almost considered a requirement to open up, is because without that information, you can just die. Protoss is a strong but brittle race. And what I mean by that is, if you prepare your defenses correctly, you have shield batteries and force field and immortals, you just smash Zerg armies that you're prepared for. But if you're a little bit out of position with the wrong units, well, you're the one who gets smashed. There's not that much middle ground as a Protoss because everything is so expensive and takes a while to build. So that's why the Stargate choice is so common. Behind it, and I'm not really talking about what Serral's doing right now, but he's kind of just sat back. He has Overlord speed, though his Overlord's already being threatened to be taken out. A little bit, I would say that's a bit of a misplacement on the Spore. I think Serral agrees. I think he's trying to protect his gas geyser here. Because, of course, the Oracle can come in and get a little bit of an angle. But maybe a bit too far out, loses 3 drones. The Oracle stays alive. And also, importantly, got the information that there's a lair on the way. So, Serral, this is pretty much full macro Zerg here. Serral, no Ling drops. He got Overlord speed, but just for scouting. A quick lair, but not a rushed lair. He's up to 37 drones, but he's just adding on 10. So right now, this is an important stage of the game. So we're going to take a breather here. Right now, this is when everything starts to come together. The next minute will determine the next 5 minutes of the game. The early game, this is about as standard as you get. It's partially because of the map layout and just how Zerg has very few options for defending. And he's up against a Stargate, so if he attacks, it's essentially all in. We're going to talk about Showtime first. Showtime has gone for the Stargate. He's gotten a Twilight Council and a robotics facility behind this and is immediately going for a Warp Prism. It looks like he may do some Archon drop pressure. So here's how it works for a Protoss. You get your Stargate out. You do a little bit of aggressive scouting. You find out if they're going for a lair, if they're going macro, if they're going for drones. Now, he's found out Serral's going for a lair, but he is also playing macro and going for drones. There's not a big all-in coming. So what do you need to do as a Protoss here? If you just let a Zerg go, they get to 70 drones, 4 bases. You just cannot compete as a Protoss player. You can't get that much economy, that much infrastructure, not at the same rate. That's how Zerg works. They explode in production. So you need to keep pressure on. How do you do that? A Warp Prism. The Warp Prism means, 1, Serral has to make units. If he adds on a Templar Archives and puts Archons in that prism, he has to make a lot of units. Zerglings aren't going to cut it. And that ties his units back up at home. It limits his drone count. It limits his map control. And allows Showtime to get to that more powerful tech, which takes longer to build. We're talking Immortals. We're talking Storm. So, right now, Showtime has to put on the pressure. Now, what does Serral need to do on the other side? Serral needs to limit any economic damage from things like Oracles or Phoenixes, and he needs to get as much economy as possible before getting his lair tech. And then he has to decide when he gets into what is more than likely Hydras. You could maybe toy with Mutas, but that's part of the reason you open Stargate as a Protoss. You get your lair tech up, but he has to decide, am I going to attack with this, or is this just for defense? Because if it's just for defense, you want to make as few units as possible while still being safe and not losing any of your drones, any of your economy, and then get your next level of tech. That's a Lurker Den or a Hive. So we're going to have to see the Serral try for a Hydra Den, and then does he choose to remain defensive, or is he looking to attack? And attacking, of course, on this map is pretty difficult, so I would imagine he gets a Hydraless Den, maybe a Baneling Nest, but takes a 4th base and tries to go up to 70-something drones and work towards the Lurkers. Here's the Hydra Den. Once again, I have not watched any of these games but the last one, which I think is actually better, because I'm not biased towards what I think, towards what I know is going to happen. I'm just trying to think out loud here. We do have a Templar Archives on the way. The Overlords have been taken out, which gives a little bit more leeway for the Warp Prism. And with the Templar Archives finishing, the Templar Archives takes half the time to finish of a Dark Shrine. That's part of the reason why it's the pick for Archons most of the time. Another reason is 1, gives you access to Storm, and 2, gives you, allows you to have more minerals because High Templar are 50, 150. So they're very mineral light, is the summary. Looks like the Archons have been scouted out. And this means Serral has to make units. He's making 7 Hydras, getting his muscular augments. And now is the point in the game where Serral has to decide his follow-up here. Are we going for a 4th base? If he can target down the War Prism, that's a big win, by the way. You can't lose the Prism. If you lose the Prism as Showtime here, and that's dangerously close, you lose all map control, and Serral can pretty much do what he wants. Without this Prism and the threat of an Archon drop, Serral can be at your front door, and there's nothing stopping him, even if it doesn't cost him really anything. So what is the worker count? Only 55 drones? That's not that many. So Serral needs to decide, am I making another round of drones and a 4th base, or am I going straight for an attack? 4th base. Only one more drone for now, but we'll see. Yep, adding on more. So this is definitely going to the later game. Lurkers, and probably Hive. On the other side, Showtime is building up that Storm, that Immortal count, so he has the stronger units later on. Alright. Thank you, Hot Form, as well. Let me take off followers mode for a second. For the host and the raid, hopefully you had a good time. And hopefully it's about to get a little better, but thank you for that. And we're breaking down, for those joining us, we're breaking down the recent WCS, the World Championship Series Finals. This was the World Championship Series. The winner of this tournament gets seeded into BlizzCon and a chance at over $1 million prize pool. Last year, I believe first place was $200,000. But the winner of this match is immediately seeded into the tournament at the end of the year. So these are the best players outside Korea, is the summary. His match happened on the weekend. I don't know, of course, if you're watching this in the future, but it happened in late January. So whoever wins is going to BlizzCon, but they may not be in the same form that they might not be in the hottest form at the end of the year. We'll have to see. But right now, these are the best of the best outside of Korea. All right. And we're in Game 1, so just getting started. So right now, Serral going up to the Lurker Den, going up to the later game tech, because once again, it's all about, this is all playing to the map. It's all playing to the map. The fact that it's so easy to play defensive as a Protoss. As Zerg, now Serral here has a handful of units. This is an exploratory attack. He's not expecting to do any damage with this. Obviously not. And he has to keep some units at home because, well, where's the Warp Prism? Because of the Warp Prism. That's why there are some Hydras here. He doesn't know where the Prism is because Overlords have already been taken out. There's no vision. But the Lurker Den is finishing. And now, Serral has 76 drones. Now either we see an Infestation Pit, go straight up to Hive, or Serral will actually try to attack. Another tag. Now, that seems like he didn't get much. He got a lot with that tag. Right now, this is a lair. He, for the next few, at least 30-something seconds, will know if a Hive starts. And if Serral starts a Hive, that's a pretty big giveaway that he's one, not hugely investing in attack right now, so Showtime might have some ability to move out on the map. And two, well, there's a Hive on the way, and he's going to have that threat later on. That's kind of ties into it. But there's no Hive. It's still a lair. Showtime knows that. He's building up his defenses, but once again, it takes Protoss longer. And Serral hasn't rushed out the Hive. Instead, he made 5 Dropper Lords. I'm not sure where they went. Where are those Dropper Lords? Now, this is the way to do damage. It takes a big commitment. But if Showtime's army is split poorly, there's already a Phoenix out here. He knows this is a threat. Oh, but he's just going to go up the front ramp. A great tag. Going to give detection to all these Lurkers, but I don't know if this is the place you want to be. Yeah, there you go. The storms can rain down. But the Dropper Lords are on the way. He doesn't want to send tagged units in. The tagged units will give away this drop. He'll be able to either recall or just move his army into position. But the Hive is on the way. Serral still knows, and a Spire as well. All right. So it's been a pretty passive game so far. Once again, that's partly the matchup, partly the map. We've finally gotten to that tier 3. Hive is on the way. Lurkers are done. 4 bases for a Protoss who's getting close to maxing out. He has a lot of Immortals. 5 Immortals. A Warp Prism is still on the map. That's a key tool. So this is when things are going to heat up. And it's all down to both micro, macro, and decision-making. Thank you, Rodney.
Will be rewarded.
But it comes down to, one, can Serral... Because fighting this army head-on with Lurkers without the Digging Claws, or without Broodlords, This is almost an unkillable army if Showtime uses it correctly. This is very difficult to deal with. But if he can split the army up and just kind of take bite-sized chunks of it, and then eventually finish with Broodlords, that's what Serral wants to do. Showtime, on the other hand, wants to use the Warp Prism to draw enough units out of position to smash an army, and then just carry that through to victory. If it goes to Broodlords, it gets a little dicier. He can deal with it. He has a Stargate. But right now it's down to Serral trying to pick apart parts of Showtime's army, and Showtime trying to do the same and keep his army together. That's the summary. Unfortunately, he just gave this away. This is a bit of a mistake out of Serral. He just put... Showtime had vision of this. He has vision now. He can... If you look at Showtime's vision, he put lings that were tagged into the Overlords and just gave away this drop entirely. I mean, it's not that big a deal, but so this drop should be shut down completely. That was a bit of a mistake. Revelation doesn't last that long. He could have waited a little longer, and this might have gone unscouted, but now this should do nothing. Now, losing this drop, this is not that many units. It's not that expensive, but it's just... Yeah, he's got to leave immediately. That's not happening. And Showtime, knowing that it wasn't a huge commitment, kept his main army over on the left side. In fact, Serral has to be careful because lurkers are expensive. Now, that's not... Just because he got deflected one time, doesn't mean... I just zoned out for a second. But this is a scary army right now. There's no Broodlords yet. Digging Claws are on the way. That allows him to burrow. His lurkers move way faster, and they burrow faster. So it allows you to reposition a lot more easily. One of the big weaknesses of lurkers, they're kind of like mobile static defense, but they're mostly static until they get that upgrade. A good tag. Observers can be killed. Revelation cannot without the units being killed. So the Revelation is the most useful tool. But Showtime already preparing. He knows this is still Serral's territory. He's getting 2 more Stargates and a Fleet Beacon. He's saying Broodlords are what kill my army. I need to be able to kill the Broodlords. Zealots on the way on the right side. This will pull some units back. Now, these units aren't part of the army for Serral, but a good split off there. He has a lot of creep spread, which really helps. A mothership is on the way. Being able to cloak some units is useful. Good storms. He's got Digging Claws. He's trying to jump on the army. There's not time for recall. Oh my god! The shred! But at the same time, Showtime able to take out a lot of the lurkers. Well, let's go over that again. Oh my. Okay, I'm gonna slow it down. We're gonna look from Showtime's perspective first. He doesn't actually know where the lurkers are right now. One lurker shows up. This is his first vision. He's on the creep, so they move so fast. There's no time to recall. He just gets jumped and mugged here. Yeah, he kills some lurkers, but the Immortals have been taken out. Now let's go back. Let's look at Serral's side. How does he set that up? He sends the revealed links back to the side. I think he waits until Revelation comes off. Oh yeah, Revelation is off. Over to the right side. Deals with this. And notice he already has some lings set up for the drop here. He's got the defense and the offense at the same time. That's beautiful. But he knows the Digging Claws are done, and so Showtime is moving on the creep. Now, how does he hotkey his units? Interesting. It seems the first hotkey... Actually, let me switch this. I usually have these unclickable, but we're going to put them on normal. So I may be able to... Yeah, he's got his main army on the first hotkey. He's got the Hydras he uses for basic defense. On another hotkey, his hatcheries, and then I believe. Yeah, these Zerglings are hotkeyed on another one. So he's got his defense, he's got his attack, and then he's got his drop as well, all hotkeyed separately. And he's playing at 400 APM. So that's 400 actions a minute. That's pretty good. I like how he just doesn't care. He just jumps it. And he's got him back against the squares as well. Now, Showtime is going for the carriers. You get enough carriers, you can win anything. Right? And Serral probably shouldn't press this attack. Well, he won that fight. Once again, welcome to Neon Violet Square. You can't win the game. Not yet. Some Corruptors on the way. This is a very difficult map to end the game as Zerg. Even though he took a great fight, it's still not enough to really just decide everything. He's ahead. He has more bases. He's got a gold. Still sitting on 69 drones. Both sides on 69. So good for them. But Serral doesn't really have the game ender yet. At least against the carriers. Now this makes things difficult. There's only 1, 2, 3 carriers don't do anything. 5 or so. Oh, the mothership though. Oh, the clutch timing. That mothership saves the day and saves the main. I don't even think he has Graviton Catapult yet. Yeah. Oh, he does. Okay, he has it. But at the same time, Serral attacking on the left. There's a few storms here. There's still several lurkers in the back. They have 2-1 upgrades. Showtime doesn't have any armor or shield upgrades yet, so his units are quite fragile. Of course, they do a lot of damage if they get close. Looks like the Corruptors will clean this up eventually. I mean, the carriers will clean this up. But how do you kill the carriers? That's the ending question. The problem here is that Showtime is going to start mining out soon. He's already starting to mine out. Serral can take most of the map. These Zealots are actually getting in on the right side. And there's no real army here for Serral. He's been building Corruptors only. So Showtime strikes back with a good a good War Prism play. And this is what you need to do. If you know your opponent is now trying to counter carriers, the counter to carriers is pretty much, especially on this map, is a lot of air. You need Corruptors, Vipers, maybe even Infestors. None of these things really deal with Zealots very well. Just 5 or 6 Zealots coming in at the wrong time can really throw you through something, especially since Serral was trying to attack. Showtime knew the army was not back at home, which means it's the perfect time for a Zealot warp in. And if he can open up, if Showtime gets one more base, this gets really scary for a Zerg player, because he's going to have to deal with a carrier player who's not going to run out of money. The only thing keeping Showtime from overrunning Serral right now is the fact he has limited income. He can't build that many units, and he can't just keep throwing Interceptors and Zealots. If Showtime secures one more base, it gets really dicey for a Zerg player. The Zealots actually get in. Will they get that? Wow, he's splitting against the lurker damage. And, saved. 40 HP. That gas income pretty key for Serral now. Now, Serral's trying to snipe carriers as they're born. Coming in here. There's nothing that really deals with this many Corruptors very quickly besides Storm. He needs Storm. You gotta be very careful. One carrier gonna get sniped off. Shield battery's not enough. Showtime is going for this key base now. This is the base. Serral's looking for the War Prism. If he can get it. Oh, he finds it. That needs to be remade immediately. Oh, Serral didn't target fire. The Zealots come in. We'll actually... And even micro... There's micro happening. And, oh, are you kidding me? At the same time, on the other side, this army could be jumped. Showtime really needs another base right now. Serral still has the money to keep him contained. But Infestors with Neural Parasite, those are key to being able to take out the carriers. The Neural Parasite allows you to just remove the carriers from the fight and potentially use them against your opponent. If he gets a good set, a lot of Corruptors going down. Serral doesn't have a huge bank, but there aren't that many carriers. There's only 3 carriers, so actually the ground army looking a little lacking here for Serral. There are some units over here. He hasn't transfused the hatchery. Oh, no, no, no! No! This is a disaster! You can't be losing infestors. Serral doesn't have that kind of bank. Showtime smartly has actually stuck on a ground army composition. He's making more zealots. He's made a lot more archons. Serral kind of overcommitted to the air units. So now his ground defense is pretty lacking. Like, he has 20 Corruptors, but there's only 3 carriers and 3 Void Rings. He might be able to take those out, but then the Corruptors are pretty useless. So, some Banelings. Actually, another Lurker, that is, on the way. But while there is no Mothership... Okay, now's the moment. Does he get feedbacks on the Infestors? There's some Neural Parasites. The Storms hit all the Lings! The Corruptors on top. Are the Neural Parasites enough? Do they remove enough Archons? Yes! The Neural Parasite combination. At the same time, Zealots on the far side, but... Oh, let's take a look at that fight again. I didn't know if that would be enough. Honestly, like... We're gonna slow it down here. Storms hit all the Lings, but the Neural Parasites on just enough Archons. The Archons kind of get bottled up. The Zealots are just dead. The Archons body block some of the units out. The target fire on the carriers there. And no Lings survive contact with the enemy, but the Hydralisks do. In the meantime, Showtime has taken out a base, but... Are there any Templar left? There are 2 Templar, and he just warped them in. There are no Storms. He's getting more Archons. But this is the base Showtime needs, and this is the base that Serral has essentially just denied. He's making 24 more Hydras, 32 more Lings. He's out of money, but he has much more than Showtime. And the Corruptors. He needs to kill the Corruptors, but they're peeing so fast! That was a beautiful engagement. Once again, 2 beautiful engagements from Serral. That's what you need to do. You need to seize the moment. And Showtime a little bit out of position. Didn't get the feedbacks he needed. Not a single Broodlord, and he still countered Archons. Good Storms. That's not going to be enough. The next Hydras come in. GG. Serral wins game 1. I think the key points, if we can go back here. There we go. There were 2 key points, obvious key points. And I want to talk about... I think I'm going to try to do this for each game. 3 things that each player did right, and 3 things each player did wrong. And it's really hard to find those things, because these are the best of the best. But I want to start with Serral, who won the game. And 3 things I think he did right. He never committed before he had the tech. He never committed to a fight till he had Digging Claws or Neural Parasite. So just choosing his fights was a big part of it. 2, Creep Spread. I think Creep Spread was a big part of holding off the charge loud attacks, making sure he could take these engagements. And 3, just maintaining a threat on the map. There was always the threat of... Even though the Dropper Lords really didn't do anything, the fact he could have done it was what kept Showtime bottled up at home. Now, 3 things he did wrong. Oh god, that's so hard. I feel like he could have definitely done more with the Dropper Lords, and it wouldn't have forced him to have to take such incredibly good fights. If he actually committed at better timings, I think he would have done better. Obviously. But I think he didn't really commit to them as much as he could have at the right times. I think he could have put himself in a better position earlier if he used them better. He didn't really hunt the Warp Prism down at any point. It ended up being not a huge issue, but it definitely could have been. He could have split off a couple Corruptors earlier and really hunted that Prism down, but he ended up continually taking damage to it, which was a bit of a mistake. Not a big one, but it was a bit of a mistake. And I think he could have gone for Hive Tech earlier. I think he kind of delayed his Hive Tech because he thought he might be able to do some Dropper Lord play, but if he had just rushed up to it, he may have been able to take a more decisive position before things like carriers are out. Alright. And now for Showtime. I think one of the bigger mistakes was just a couple times he let his scouting slip. You can never lose track. If you're on creep, you can't lose track of the lurkers. He lost track of the lurkers with Revelation for 5 or 6 seconds, and, well, this happened. This is what happens when you lose track of the lurkers. Like, right now, there's no Revelation. Showtime doesn't know where the lurkers are. And he's on creep. He lost track for a few seconds, and that's when he loses his arm. You need 100% vision. 90% just isn't going to cut it. I also think he could have used the Warp Prism a little more early on. I think the Warp Prism would have really opened up some more space on the map. I mean, Serral with his great creep spread. And part of that is that he didn't really shut down the creep spread. He was out on the map, but wasn't able to really touch the creep spread. So I think more Warp Prism usage. And I'm not sure I agree with the carriers. I know the Broodlords are a threat, but the carriers actually ended up hurting him more than helping him. Now, that was partly Serral, but I don't know if he had the opening to go carriers there. Because there were never any Broodlords, there were Corruptors, and he could have gone Broodlords, and he would have, but the carriers seem kind of like a half commitment that ended up just hurting his army as opposed to helping it. Now, of course, that has to do with what Serral was doing and all of that. But it seems Serral was a little bit more quick on the draw for this game. Let's go into game 2. On Eastwatch, which is a large map as well. Not as large, but a large one. Update the score. So, now, obviously you know the players. But the map is what changes here. Showtime, honestly, the more I think about Showtime, I don't know if I've ever seen Showtime do a hardcore cheese. As in like a cannon rush or a proxy gate or some sort of one-base play. I'm sure he has. I might just be forgetting. And I remember I didn't watch most of WCS, unfortunately, but now we're doing this. But I can't remember. Showtime just kind of that standard player that plays so well. He's incredibly hard to beat. But Serral, the same thing, but it seems a little bit better so far. Now, another thing to point out, I didn't really talk about much in the first game, for Zerg, is I focused a lot on Showtime last game. We're going to focus more on Serral in the early game. The Overlord placements. Overlord placements seem very simple, but they're actually one of the most important things for a Zerg player to get a hold of. Zerg is called the reactive race, as in, you want to build as many drones as you can up until the last second, and then you want to build units, right? So, how do you know when to build units? The first and most obvious thing is Overlords. Right now, Serral has sent his first Overlord out a little bit off to the edge, looking maybe for proxy gates, trying to see if there are any cannon rushes, but overall, just trying to get 2 Overlords across the map. Past that point, where does he set them? Is he looking for counterattacks? Is he looking for warp prisms? But the Overlord placements and the Overlord pathing are what allow you to make the decision, like, Do I make drones or do I make units? Now, sometimes Zerg players will decide, all right, now I'm making units. That's that. But you know what? I want to have this. I keep meaning to do a little video about it, but we'll do it now. So what is Showtime doing? Why does he have this little probe, like, pretending to mine for a split second here? All right, so let's talk about that in 60 seconds or less. I'll try to explain it. So the way the mining AI in StarCraft works, a mineral patch pretty much is told a worker's mining here, and a worker starts mining. It sends a signal to the game that a worker's mining here, and it doesn't matter which side. So when Showtime's worker starts mining for a split second, and one of Serral's drones tries to mine, the patch says back to that drone, no, somebody's already here. Go to another patch. It denies a little bit of mining time. It can keep them from having a few more minerals, and if you don't have the 200, 300 something APM that these players have, you shouldn't be trying it. But you'll see Serral actually go back and try to force his drones onto the patches. It's just something to do. There's no lings out yet. There's nothing to kill this. But thank you, tiny egg rolls. But yeah, just a little detail. Maybe deny 10, 15 minerals. If you do it perfectly, maybe 20 or 25. But why do people generally keep their second Ovi on the second until it finishes? The short version is cannon rushes. Serral doesn't seem to be particularly afraid of that. But the short version is cannon rushes. Cannon rushes can start almost until the hatch is finished. When it's finished, you have the creep, which will deny most of the options. But the short version is cannon rushes. And a lot of players, I keep the second Overlord, but Serral seems confident, and I'm sure he would know how to deal with a cannon rush. Now, we see Overlord speed again. This comes down to being reactive, right? You have Overlord speed, you can get a full scout of the Protoss base. You can confirm it's something like a Stargate, and also if there's a Phoenix afterwards, you're able to pull your Overlords away. It's not cheap at 100. It's the same cost as speed, but it upgrades very quickly. It's only 43 seconds to complete Overlord speed. So it's a good investment if you're not confident. Well, not necessarily not confident, but just to solidify your information and make sure the Protoss can't hide anything from you. Now, say Showtime built a Twilight or a Stargate somewhere on the map. Even if Serral didn't see that, he gets into the main base, sees there's no tech building. It's not like Showtime's just not spending his gas. It's somewhere on the map. So even scouting no information is getting information. Is an important point as well. Oh, yeah. He gets in, he sees it's a Stargate, sees it's an Oracle. Oracle gonna come in. There's already a Spore Crawler done. It's a little bit close to the gas geyser to make sure that drones can't be targeted down there. And gets away. Any losses? 0 losses. There were 8 to 10 lings. I believe he had 10 total, which are enough to take down 2 adepts and nothing more. The Oracle going to get in. We'll see if he goes for a stasis or a tag here. But a stasis ward can deny mining. And now here's another part of stasis that actually makes it more effective. Using the stasis ward on the mineral line. When drones come out of the stasis, they don't go back to mining. They just sit there until you send them back to mining. So if there's a lot going on or they're not paying attention, those drones, not only are they in stasis for, what is the exact number? 21 seconds, but they could also not be mining for many seconds past that. Alright, so the lair finishing at the 5-minute mark once again. He started around 4 minutes. It looks like Serral going to go straight into the lair tech. Will be a Hydralisk Den, probably. There's no reason, if it ain't broke, right? We're gonna play the same game again. But a Hydralisk Den is on the way. And a Warp Prism as well. Now, this is different. He's making 2 sentries, and he's showing the sentries. So, Showtime is definitely mixing it up. He's adding on Charge behind instead of going for a Templar Archives. So it's not the same build. It looks pretty similar, but it's not the same build here. He's going to do a light adept drop, because once again, you want to keep pressure on. You want to keep the pressure on. But he's not committing nearly as much money to his tech. There's the Templar Archives, but this is more defensive than to get some sort of Archon drop. So this Well, this is the key point in the game, where we have the decisions to be made. Does Showtime try to really punch out a lot of pressure, or does he sit back? Does he build Immortals? Does he just work towards the Templar, Immortal, Archon charge lot? And does Serral looks like he's about to take a gold about this second, but does Serral drone up, or does he use the gold base to just attack off of Lair? Are we going to go up to Hive Tech, or is he going to stay on Lair Tech? This map is pretty large, and there are a lot of choke points, but they're not that constricted. This is not Neon Violet Square, so if Serral wants to go for the Lurker play, it's going to be more effective. But at the same time, Showtime has more options for going for the Warp Prism as well. The main base is very large to defend. There's a lot of areas you can warp in and still be effective that Serral can't defend easily. So, it's really on Serral right now to decide if and when he's going to attack. Showtime, in making these sentries and getting all this tech up, he can't really attack for several minutes, besides a Warp Prism pressure. That's a good question. Why is Showtime not going for a gold base as a third? Because this base is just far too exposed. For the distance between the natural and this third, also remember you can take down these rocks in order to make it a little bit more defended, and just the layout of the area is much more defensible. If he takes this base, it's almost double the travel distance, and becomes very difficult. Serral could attack here, or attack over here, and there's no way Showtime's army can be both places at once. Whereas, on this side, it's much more realistic to be able to move between the third and the natural. It's just too big of a risk, is the summary. Looks like a couple Adepts actually get in. Doing pretty well for what it is. Like, he's going to get the Adepts out. There's nothing that can really kill the Prism as well. Serral once again. Very good on the creep spread. Showtime warps in 2 more Zealots. I don't think he expects to kill this, but he puts a little bit of damage on it. But it's about, interestingly, a Roach Warren as well. Looks like Serral just covering his bases here, just in case it's going to be really, really heavy on the charge lot. Dance party. I like the, well, the 2 hallucinated Phoenixes mean that they won't just die right off the bat. He's actually going to get a really good scout. Let's look at his vision there. Let's see when he goes to check it. I don't think he actually saw that there was a Lurker down in Infestation Pit on the way, but he's going to see the Hive. And seeing the Hive is enough. So, but it looks like Showtime... Now, Showtime okay, he's taking this 4th. This is just defensive Protoss. He's let Serral go... Now, this... The big risk is he's let Serral go here. He's let him get essentially everything he wanted. He's getting a Hive, a Lurker Den, upgrades, Roach Warren, 5th base, creep spread, like... And there's no... He's not going straight up to a Fleet Beacon, either. There's no Fleet Beacon for a Mothership. So it looks like Showtime is going to try to play kind of a classic Legacy of the Void style, which is just Immortal Archon charge lot and hope, like... Well, hope is a strong word, but get a Warp Prism in a key position to draw enough units away. He's looking to maybe not necessarily kill, but do damage to Serral before Hive Tech kicks in, or at least he should be. If Hive Tech kicks in, it's still going to take a great fight. Those Digging Claws already on the way. But Showtime has let Serral go. And now, I don't know if he's going to pay the price for it, because his army is very strong. He's at 155 supply. How many gates are we looking at here? Only 8 gates. He's probably going to add some more on very soon. There's the Fleet Beacon, but no additional Stargates. So this is not going to be for carriers. This is for a Mothership, and maybe a few Tempests if he desperately needs them. But a Mothership. And, oh, well, I stand corrected. Serral going for the drop play. And if the units are out of position, the drops can be incredibly effective. But I don't know if I 100% agree with the style of letting Serral go. Partially because he's Serral. I don't think that's necessarily a bad strategy in general. But Serral is so on top of potential attacks. Yeah, the drop's already in. the army is on the other side of the map and has to be recalled. It will be, but Serral just picks up and gets out. So he did a drop, which this is not a big commitment. He's maxed out. He's got money. Does he have a Spire? The only thing Serral doesn't have right now is a Spire. I think he'll start that, like, within 10 seconds from now. But, so, Showtime playing very defensive. He's probably going to go to carriers again, it looks like. And just relying on defense here. And that means Serral's taking the entire map. That's very uncomfortable to me as a Protoss, but maybe Showtime, that's how he wants to play it. And eventually, if he gets enough carriers in the right position, he can just win. But Serral has done a very good job of keeping him from ever really putting anything out on the map. Alright. Serral, what's your choice? He's maxed out. He's got 2-2 finishing. He's got plenty of army going through the center. Eats the stasis ward. The storms come up. Serral hitting several bases at once. He's just going for the Roach Hydra Lurker here. Some more army is committed down. He's trying to pick Showtime apart. He's probing for weakness. There's no weakness yet. Showtime on a solid 73 probes. There's the Spire from Serral. Maybe starting to realize, oh, wait a second. Units caught out of position. The storms are good. A bit of a mistake there. The mothership on the way. Showtime being very careful not to get caught on any side here, but a drop loads up again. Serral hitting another side. Force field's coming out. Now, these rocks actually are a little bit vulnerable. Oh, and he's going to segment off the army again. How long on recall? We're still 50 seconds away. This drop shut down. Good defense. More force fields coming out. The Immortals blasting through the front, but the Lurkers are closing the distance. Maxed out on either side. We have Tempest as the choice this time around. I like that a lot more. A drop in the main. A few units get in. Is there detection? Does he need it? If there's only one Lurker, he can just storm it down. But once again, the Lurker's closing the distance. These rocks have not been taken down. Showtime still maxed out. These Lurkers need to be removed. But Showtime still hasn't taken any body blows here. It's just been superficial damage. He's been distracted. Oh, a couple of Immortals move through. Maybe one or two. It's starting to get... If he starts losing Immortals and Archons, that's when it gets dicey. It's like another one going to go down. He's down to 3 Immortals. Storm's hitting hard, but the Roaches are almost free. Finally, the Lurkers are taken out. Showtime still nearly maxed out. Good defense, but he's starting to bleed a little bit. And Serral, he's going on 6 bases. He's got Brood Lords on the way. 3-3 on the way. He's just throwing units at Showtime and seeing what sticks. Showtime needs to take down these rocks or he could be caught between a rock and a hard place. 18 more Hydras on the way. A lot of these units, the Archon's caught in a little bit of a traffic jam. Serral continues to lay on the gas. Showtime keeping his shields up. But there's still a lot of Hydras. They have good upgrades. He doesn't even need Lurkers anymore. More charge lots being warped in. It looks like Showtime trying to transition to carriers. A few units will beat back this Roach Hydra, but there's not enough over here. He's going to have to recall some of the units back. He tries to get them out, including the Mothership for the save. There's no detection. He scores back. Oh, an Oracle targeted down. The Overseers come up. Charge lots from the back. Some of the army from the back. The rocks are still kind of constricting this. An Immortal pulls back at the last second. Another one on the backside. Serral losing a lot of supply, but Showtime losing more. Oh, the storms! But Serral not going to run out of money anytime soon. That Templar just knocked up against the wall. Showtime, Serral back at 200. Showtime at 140. He's still trying to take down the rocks. He has no recall. His army's out of position. Serral moving through just continues to throw units at him. The Swarm. He's lost more resources, more units, but he's winning the game. Showtime losing bases. He's taking more and more damage on each one of these attacks. Oh my god. Yeah. That's actually ridiculous. Serral with 3,300 minerals per minute. There's nothing at this base to defend. Showtime, there are cracks in the armor, and it looks like he's about to break. There's just not enough. to deal with this. He's just putting too many units on the field. He picked them apart. And Serral has dictated the pace of this entire game. He has been in the driver's seat, and he's run Showtime off a cliff. He lost his fourth. He lost most of his nat. He still has plenty of probes, but he's mining out of his main. Carriers on a low economy against a Zerg who has 6 bases, carriers are not the choice. They just do not do what they need to do. Serral keeps hitting all his weak points. Roach Hydra, the unenthusiastic hand job of Zerg units. It's not very exciting. None of it is particularly effective, but it gets the job done. And right now, Serral just working his way through. Money in the bank. Bases, 7 bases now. More on the right side. Showtime trying to hold. He's still over 150 supply. The Corruptor's looking for a snipe. The Sky-Tossed army looking pretty good, but there's almost no ground army under it. Down go the Tempest. Down go the Carriers. Serral losing a lot of units. Immediately replaces the Mothership falls. Eats the Storms for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and whatever they call it in Finland. And even going to take a base as well. There's just not enough damage. The Void Rays come up. They will prismatically align. Showtime, I think for the rest of this series, Showtime cannot let Serral just go. He can't do it. You can't let Serral go. He's just his macro's too good. He'll take too much of the map. It doesn't matter how strong your army is, it will eventually break. This game is over. Game 2 gonna go to Serral as well. 2-0 lead. But that was a little bit more clear cut. Neon Violet Square, Showtime used the map. I think the style that Showtime is playing, the just defensive power toss style, is more effective. But Eastwatch and most of the maps in the pool don't really. If you don't put any pressure on a Zerg, they can run you over. And it doesn't matter how it doesn't matter how many storms you have, they have more roaches. They just don't die. So,
Yes. Just as I deserve.
We might do that later.
Hope you can play my replay.
That's going to be a while out. We got a lot more games to go. Well, or we just have 2. No spoilers, even though I know how this ends. But all right. We're going into Game 3 on Backwater. Remember, once again, I haven't seen these games except for the very last one, but obviously I do know how it ends. That doesn't take away from the excitement. It's not about who wins, it's about how. But in the bottom, I think we're going to take a more... We've kind of broken it down. We're going to take a more hype caster tone for this game. A little bit less of the pausing and analysis, a little bit more of the in the moment, but we'll break it down afterwards. In the bottom right, the Finnish Zerg looking dominant so far, embracing the swarm and overwhelming his Protoss opponent. It is Serral. And in the top left, from Deutschland, a little bit too passive, just not able to put up enough of a fight. Can he change it up in game number 3? It's Showtime. And it's Showtime. You can't go down 3. You don't down 3-0. There have been a single-digit number of dozens, maybe hundreds of finals in 8 years of StarCraft 2 history. Of this caliber, this level of play, this much on the line. There have been a single, maybe 4 or 5 reverse sweeps, aka down 3-0, win 4-3. So going down 3-0 is almost is pretty much a death warrant. It's 2-0 now. Looks like we're going to be opening up, I believe, the same again. Now, Backwater's a little different. Backwater, you have a pocket third. Now, a base like this is very vulnerable to drops. But Showtime can take his third base kind of early, almost with impunity. If he uses his Stargate well, I wouldn't be surprised to see a third Nexus before he gets any additional gates. Now, maybe he'll throw one down at the front. It looks like that's very likely, but you can afford to be a little bit greedier as long as you confirm your opponent isn't making a bunch of roaches and just trying to kill you. And we've seen Serral, the only time he makes roaches is when he has 5 bases, apparently. So, we'll have to see. But we have some sort of European gentleman's agreement here where we're going to play essentially not the same openers, but very similar openers each game. Once again, Showtime, gate expand into Stargate. Serral with a quick 3 bases. He's got Zergling speed. One little difference, it doesn't look like he's adding on Overlord speed as quickly. Instead, it's going to be an Evolution Chamber. All right, so we're mixing it up a bit. He may try for a drop, or he may just go for the upgrades. I'm not sure. But a little bit different here. But at the same time, Showtime mixing it up. No Oracle first. It's going to be a Phoenix. A Dropper Lord on the way. Oh, but the Phoenix finds it. Will the Lings actually get in time? There's a second Phoenix. He didn't go for an Oracle at all. So Showtime off to a strong start. Serral just cancels it. He knows this isn't happening. So instead, I mean, Showtime, I'm sure he's understands the map a bit. Realizes this is an imminent threat. Wait, did he scout the... He didn't scout the Evo Chamber. This is all just instinct here. So Showtime choosing a strong build to kick things off. Shuts down Serral's early attempt at pressure. That's not a huge loss. That was just a little bit of a harass, a little bit of pressure. Not a big commitment from Serral at all. It's not like, oh my god, his entire build is crumbling before our eyes. What will Serral do to recover? He will make some drones, get on a third base, and be kind of pretty much completely fine. That's what he's going to do. Now, when does Showtime take his third? He's been in favor of getting the Robo before any additional bases, making sure he has access to that tag. I love this Terran music blasting in the Protoss versus Zerg. Really gets me in the mood. But 4 queens are the choice from Serral. It looks like he pulled them mostly off of injects. He didn't just build a bunch of extra queens, though he is building some. 2 Spore Crawlers on the outermost base, where the queens are going to have trouble defending. It's going to be a quick Robo-Bay, so Showtime mixing it up. If he's dealing with Hydras or Banelings, well, Hydras, Lings, and Banelings, and he has a very defensive posture with these bases. The Colossi definitely a strong choice with their buff against light units. Another Phoenix on the way. Interesting, he's going up to, is that going to be 6? Yeah. So Showtime really relying on these Phoenixes. Aggressive scouting, a bit of harass, shuts down the drops that Serral has. Drops have been very effective for Serral. If he keeps most of these Phoenixes alive, loses 1, but having 4 or 5 Phoenixes makes it much harder to get those Dropper Lords in. And that means Showtime won't have to top as many of his ground units at home. Another Overlord going down. Serral taking some damage. It's still mostly superficial. He's got plenty of drones. He's getting a 4th base. He's got creep spread, and there's really no chance of Showtime moving out to pressure. Once again, now, I like that Showtime has mixed it up. He's finding at least some way to put pressure on Serral. He's finding some way to dictate the pace of the game, and he's forced Serral to respond to him. He's said, okay, you have to defend against the Phoenixes. You have to sit back. You have no real aggressive options. Now, Serral is going for an infestation pit. He's skipping the Hydralisk entirely. Okay, I'm sorry. Whoever is in the Terran Orchestra needs to calm it down a little bit. It's just too loud. Dun, dun. The Terrans show their face even when they don't make it to the finals. Rip special. And now part of this, once again, part of this is the aggressive scouting. It's not just killing drones or killing overlords. It's getting in, seeing that infestation pit. That's a key point. We've got a Void Ray, a Colossus Void Ray. What year is it? Colossus Void Ray is the choice. 7 more drones go down. Serral on 77. Some roaches are coming out. There's no real anti-air, but that won't be a huge issue unless there's multiple Void Rays. I think Serral has correctly identified this is Colossi to kick things off here, which means that Hydralisk will get roasted. The roaches, on the other hand, don't take very much damage at all. The Colossi do a lot extra versus light. The Hive is on the way. Ravagers also not light or armored, so they actually don't have a tag on them, is an interesting point. Which means besides biological. So they take extra damage from Archons, but not from the Stalkers and not from the Colossi. They are a little bit more fragile in that they're larger, have a larger hitbox, clunkier to move around, but they do have Corrosive Bile and those options as well. So will Serral just try to slam home the point? Once again, Showtime sitting back, getting 4 bases, going up to a semi-Sky Toss army, just a full death ball. But Serral, not really been able to put on pressure. The Phoenix is already preempting a drop. Showtime knows his weakness. This is probably the strongest start that Showtime has had in getting his units together without Serral taking a massive economy. But he's going straight for the Swarm. The Hive is finished. An Ultralisk Cavern is on the way. No Hydralisk Den, just Lings, Banes, Roaches, and Ravagers. He's just going to try to roll through. Will he have enough units, though? Storm is not... Okay, Storm will be finished by the time this fight commences. That's a lot of Zerglings. They're not Adrenalings yet. Serral should be adding that on very soon, increasing that attack speed of the Zerglings dramatically. A drop comes in, a Baneling drop with +2. Now, very important, +2 attack on the Banelings allows you to one-shot probes. So that means a single Baneling could potentially kill all of Showtime's probes if they're stacked up. Oh, the Zerglings looking for a snipe. A lot of Queens, more Banelings on the way, 26 more. The Zerglings looking for an opportunity for counterattack, but Showtime holds strong. He's trying to get out on the map. He knows if he gives Serral too much time, he'll not only max out, but he'll have the power to remax again and again and again and again with so many units. He's going for the Fleet Beacon. He's going for the Stargates. But oh my god, Serral. Serral has so many Banelings. He tries to get the wraparound. Good force fields will deny a lot of this. Oh my god. I start choking. It looks like Showtime might join me. A recall comes out, but how much will escape? A Colossi, a couple Void Rays. Storms, not enough to deal with that. There's still a few Templar on the field, and by a few I mean one. It has enough energy for one Storm. Serral just overruns this. He's coming in from all sides. Once again, there are some shield batteries. The Storms are good. The Banelings are deflected for now. An Immortal coming out. Corrosive Bile onto the Void Rays. They dodge out of the way. I just noticed very technically there's no anti-air. The Colossi holding strong. Banelings in the front trying to make their way through. The probes still mining from this base somehow. There's no counter for the Void Rays. Banelings connect with a handful of the probes. He's left with 63. But Serral, remember, when Banelings attack, they always get one kill, and that kill is themselves. So even though Serral doing good damage, he still doesn't actually have a direct counter for the Void Rays. Or a mothership when it comes out. Serral keeps hammering on the front door, and Showtime barely holding that door. Ultralisks are the next wave as in our tower defense game. Serral with not quite as much creep spread as the previous game, but still halfway across the map. Very intimidating. Some key points. There's no Warp Prism out on the map. There's no Adrenal Glands for these Zerglings. I think that's a pretty major oversight out of Serral. It really increases their DPS dramatically, even if they don't live for that long. But 5 Ultralisks. Serral sitting on 83 drones. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 now bases coming up. Showtime just holding as strong as possible. That Colossus with 33 kills. Oh, the banelings coming in. You can't. Oh no! A Templar! Those are +3 banelings. How much? I don't know exactly how much damage they do, but it gets very close to killing a Templar, let alone probes. 7 more Banes on the way. Serral is maxed out again. Showtime isn't that close. Once again, going for the Void Rays and the carrier here. Showtime, a bit like a broken record. Maybe this time it'll actually work. Some Overlords even dropping creep. The Queens are here for anti-air. A few Banelings will be drawn in, but the Ultralists are coming in. Maybe not the greatest angle there. Force fields will not be able to keep them out. Showtime retreats behind everything. Some storms come through. The Banelings not quite going to do what they want to there. Lings trickling through the front. There's nothing really here to defend, but there aren't that many Banelings. The charge lots can hold the line for now. Some storms raining down on the Lings. The Void Rays are charged up, but they're targeting the Queens, which are not armored units. Showtime still with a lot of supply. Some Immortals in the front, trying to dodge back behind the cannons, blasting through the Ultralists. The Ultralists don't have the Queen support. Once again, Showtime holds. He's still got 68 probes. He still has plenty of Void Rays. At what point do we see Infestors? We have some Corruptors, but those aren't incredible against Void Rays. The carriers are coming out. Showtime holds again. And a Mothership has completed. Serral just keeps throwing himself against the base, and Showtime keeps holding on to it. Another round of Zerglings on the other side. Still no Adrenal Glands. Still a pretty big mistake. Showtime trying to move out. Serral still has options. Looks like he's going to take the Watchtower. +3 attack about to complete. 3 carriers. Well, 1 carrier about to complete. 2 more in the mail. But Serral still doesn't... Showtime's army is getting quite scary. He's only got 4 Templar, but he is building the carriers. He doesn't have any upgrades for him yet. That's still a lot of Ultras. How many Immortals? Only 3 Immortals underneath. Serral moving in the left side once again. His creep spread doesn't quite reach far enough, but the Corrosive Bile is going to knock down the Zealot, the Cyber Core, and Gateways alike. Showtime scrambling back. He doesn't choose to recall. The wall is broken, but will he come through the breach? No, not this time. But at the same time, the Zerglings to the top. Showtime not going to have enough to defend. That'll have to be a cancel. He's drying out in the main. The natural, down to the 4 larger patches. Showtime needs another base. Serral's starting to bank up money with his max out. Does he have a Greater Spire? He doesn't have a Greater Spire yet, but honestly, there's not that much ground army to worry about. I take it back. Another round of Banelings. The Changelings are dropped. A storm hits everything. Of course, all these units can survive 1, but if they're out for too long, the elements will get to them. The Void Rays are charged up. The Prismatics fully aligned. Serral will be forced to retreat again. The supplies are even. 2 Ultralists to the top. Charge lots aren't going to be enough. He doesn't have Dark Templar. A Cyber Core was just rebuilt. 1 Ultralisk may be overstaying its welcome. Wait. Okay. But Serral continues to build so many units, and Showtime continues to defend. A base canceled or killed once again. Showtime running out of money. In carriers, every interceptor killed is another 15 minerals. They're not free. Serral has taken all of the bottom of the map and some of the eastern side. 10 more Corruptors. The Greater Spire burrow. Pathogen glands for the Infestors. +3 ground carapace. Still no Adrenal Glands. That can, if this game is close enough, that's a deciding factor. The Adrenal Glands are such a huge upgrade for Zerglings, especially taking down things like Nexi. Once again, the Zergling's going to go for the cancel, but the Archon's going to say no. The wall rebuilt once again under fire. The storms hit all the Corruptors. Terrible, terrible damage. The Prismatics are aligned. Carriers being targeted down, but the Void Ray is doing great damage here. The Corruptor's not going to be able to get close enough. The Ultralisk forced back as well. Another time, Serral is thrown back, and this time he dips to 140 supply. He's starting to replace some of that. He's going for Corruptors, but most of the carriers survived. The storms blew away so much of their HP that they just couldn't continue the fight. And Ultralisk going for probes. An interesting scenario, an interesting world we live in right now. Finally, Infestors. Serral has decided the brute force strategy may not be cutting it. It's time for a little bit of finesse, because that last engagement Just so many resources lost. He can't even remax out. It's getting dangerous because Showtime is building more and more carriers. He has Archons. He has plenty. Well, he has several Templar. Serral has all the money in the world, but if you don't spend it on the right things, does it actually matter? Showtime has another base. He has a breath of life. Serral needs to... Even Spore Crawler's coming up. The wall once again. How many times do the Mongolian Zerg try to break through? And how many times does the Dynasty of Showtime hold the wall? The creep is at the front door. The fungal hits a lot of units. There are no Vipers to really take advantage of this. But the cost effectiveness, this is a death ball. 3 carriers, 6 Archons, 4 Immortals, 5 Templar, a Mama ship. We're back to Phoenix harass. Showtime killing workers for the first time in about 10 minutes. This is happening. Serral gonna back off. He has every base except for the one Showtime currently occupies and one to the north. The Spore Crawler's being taken out, but he doesn't want to be hit by any key fungals. The Neural Parasite catches 1 Archon. Storm's hitting everything close. Some fungals coming through Corrosive Bile. Knocks down a bunch of the Void Rays. Beautiful combination. But at the same time, 3 more carriers on the way. Another warp-in will reinforce. The carriers, a lot of them still in the sky. Serral does not have money in the bank. For the first time, Showtime moving out on the map. He's finally clearing some of this creep. He's moving forward. Where are the Templar? They do not have the storms. And without the storms, he can't stay out here. Some charge lots coming through. Showtime's starting to bank up money. Serral banking up a little as well, but the only base that Showtime could really take right now is being taken. And Ultralisk gonna hold the line. Yeah, still no adrenal glands. Not that that's the biggest mistake, but every unit counts here. Showtime making that very apparent. More Ultralisk, but you're not touching this. Starting to look at some of the kill counts here. Maybe on the Templar. Where are these Corruptors? The Corruptors cancel the base with the Caustic Spray. Trying to target things down. This will pull some of the army back. Serral, the Swarm has most of the map, but the Protoss hold for so long. Serral really starting to bank up money now. What is his unit composition looking like? 103 larvae in the bank. Triple digits. He could potentially... Well, can you even make 100 Zerglings? Well, technically, yes. He could make 100 Zerglings at a time if he had the money. I don't know if I've ever seen triple digits before. I've seen high double digits, but triple is... Oh, the Corruptors have +2 attack. Storm's finally coming through. A few units sniped off there. The Infestors are the choice. The Corruptors spraying down a Nexus. They don't want to overstay their welcome. A couple storms will soften them up drastically. Now this base, Showtime, in typical Bronze League Heroes fashion, builds the assimilators before the base is even done. He knows he wants them. The Infestor's coming up. He has Neural, he has Fungal. Both are good choices here. Goes with the Neural Parasite. But the Infestors could be popped and taken away. Serral's still looking for an opportunity with the Corruptors and on the ground. He may have too many workers. 83 drones means his army supply is just always smaller than Showtime if Showtime's close to maxing out. This is awkward. Which one of these is not like the others? Yep. Yep. The Ultras, honestly, this is just throwing away the... You don't even want Ultras anymore. If he had DTs, he could clean these up almost for freeze. But no Dark Shrine yet, a bit of an oversight, and no Adrenal Glands, a bit of an oversight on both sides. Now, Showtime doesn't want to spend too much gas, but a couple DTs in the right spot can do game-winning damage. Oh, the Ultras survived. Another round of Corruptors. How many? He has 28. I've never seen Storm used on Changelings before, but today is that day. But the Mothership sniped off. Only a couple Corruptors go down. He's going to rebuild that immediately. There you go. In the main base. And the game still nowhere near a conclusion. Serral has a lot of money in the bank, but he still can't. This is just such a powerful Protoss. Another base has been opened up. Serral didn't mind too much from this. So, this is some viable minerals for Showtime here. It's still, like, there's still no clear winner. Serral has had all of the bases for almost all of the game. We're 23 minutes in. It refuses. Showtime not only refuses to die, but he lives strongly and vibrantly and continues to take bases and win fights. And it looks like he's going to do it again. He's going to take the top right, and we're going to be in essentially a little bit of an imbalanced half-map scenario because, of course, Serral did mine some of this, but not that much. He didn't even touch the gas geysers. This is one of the later drone rushes I've ever seen. But the Corruptors, will he recall? Is it too late already? The units have to come back. He wasn't quite in position. Down goes a Nexus, and with it, a few hundred gas and minerals. There's really not that much left, though. The Zealots, the drones burrow, but you can't burrow a hatchery. That's next patch. And we've slowed down a little bit as Serral's starting to realize this could go till the last mineral is mined. Maybe we're not going to throw away hundreds of units anymore. He's lost 558 so far. Showtime at 255. Now, of course, Protoss units are significantly more expensive than most of their Zerg counterparts. Oh, some good trades there. He's working on +3 attack. He's on +2 with those Corruptors, but they're doing real damage now. Especially against massive air units. I neglected to mention that. Great for sniping off carriers and motherships. This base had to be rebuilt. Serral long-distance mining. He's down to 61 drones, making his army much larger. The Corruptors sniping another Nexus, it looks like. Looks like Showtime has decided to just long-distance mine from what's left of this base. He's at 60 workers, so 140 army supply on either side. This Nexus goes down to the caustic spray, but it will be rebuilt. Another, well, that happened. That happened too. As an Ultralisk burrows just out of cannon range. These Phoenixes, which have survived most of the game, finally sniped off. How many Templar? 6 Templar with plenty of energy for Storm. Where are they, actually? They're lagging behind, but nearly full energy. That's 2 Storms and a feedback apiece. Or any combination. The Corruptor's looking to get a snipe here, because of course the Void Ray is moving quite slow. That Ultralisk maybe burying its head in the sand wasn't the greatest option at that point. But we're getting to the situation where the map can mine out. Now, Serral has a lot more money in the bank, but throughout this game, that hasn't seemed to matter that much. A little bit of creep taken out, but this might be a game where Showtime actually just never attacks. Just at no point does Showtime attack. He just defend. I mean, it's been 26 minutes of defense here. If he can go another, well, another like 10, we're mining out in 10 or 12 more minutes. Serral will have mined out of almost all of his minerals at this current rate in 10 minutes. So, Showtime will take a little longer. He's taking these bases a little later. But, of course, there will be money in the bank, but the map will be mined out in 15 minutes at the current rate. Just give or take a few minutes. A lot of infestors. 20 infestors. No vipers. For better or for worse, he's got plenty of... We're getting to that point where spore crawlers are part of the army. These lings, still no adrenal gland. Killing probes. That's the wrong button. Doesn't have a huge impact right now, but the shield battery doing its best. Every mineral, despite the fact he's about to have over 9,000 minerals in the bank. Every mineral is starting to count. 5 more gateways on the way for Showtime. Is that for... No, he's just building 5 more gates. He just decided he wanted more. Okay. There's these birds in the background. But... Oh. How does this end? We're starting to see Backwater's natural creatures are starting to rebel against the exploitation of its natural resources. But I don't think either of these players have the best interests of the natural creatures in mind. More changelings taken out. Blink is on the way. We're getting to the point where at some point Showtime may switch from a Sky Toss army, because if Serral wins a fight but loses his ground army and only has Corruptors, then Blink Stalkers warping in have a chance to make the difference. So there could be a Protoss tech switch. That's what Showtime is preparing for. At the same time, Serral can literally do anything besides make Hydras and Lurkers because he never made a Hydra net. But Serral has all of the options open to him. It looks like Showtime has just decided, F that, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not losing more interceptors. I have a few minerals as it is. So, we've definitely slowed down a bit, but the creep is being denied. That is so many infestors, so many purple bars. We'll have to see if Serral is a wizard. And can he cast all his spells in the right order at the right time? Nope, even the Ultras can't go up that ramp. Too many cannon, shield batteries, a single immortal. There are no Broodlords. The Zerglings killing any amount of immortals is a big loss. There are no Broodlords here to really siege up. So, that is the big concern. Some infested Terrans come out. Whoa, he catches some with a neural parasite. Your strength is now my strength. He uses them to hold them and kill. The neural I forgot about the neural parasite. That can change everything. It's going to come down to the feedbacks. Are there any oracles to tag this army? There is one. The army tags are critical, because if he's not able to get the right storms or the right feedbacks, well then the infestors will just take half the army. 1.5 armies against half an army, I think usually wins. But if the infestors are gone, then that's most of the stopping power. The corruptors are there after the infestors get their spells off. If we get neurals and fungals and even some infested Terrans, the corruptors don't lead the fight, they follow. Oh god. Oh, it's all stacked up, but he gets the oracle. He has to rebuild that immediately. There you go. Yeah. The oracle is so important. If he doesn't have the ability to tag these units, the probes come out. If he can't tag the units, then he's not gonna... Well, he can't take a good fight. Pretty much it just comes down to luck then, and Serral is not one who leaves things to luck. Awkwardly, the watchtower is only taken by changelings here. Showtime realizes that. There are a grand total of 96 gas. There's 96 gas in these geysers right now. The armies are getting larger and larger as there's less and less to mine from. There's only really one base that's not drying up right now. Oh, a lot of infested Terrans popping. That's only energy. And they're shooting down these interceptors, which cost minerals. Serral, where as cost inefficient as he was earlier, has really buckled down. He's gotten over his roaring 20s here, and he's settling in for retirement. Building up that trust fund, making sure he has the money when he needs it later on. The unit composition, 6 queens, 5 ultras, 20 infestors. Any snipes, well, losing corruptors costs money. On the other side, we've got 4 immortals, 2 archons, 7 carriers that you can't even see underneath here. 15 Void Rays. Void Rays are both a strength and a vulnerability. The 15 Void Rays could either screw or save Showtime. I mean, I'm being really indecisive there. But what I mean is they're very vulnerable to fungal and infested Terrans. So if all the Void Rays are stacked up and just get fungled down, is it happening? Are we doing this? It's happening! Showtime falls back. Serral leads the fight with so many infested Terrans. A Neural Parasite comes out, picks up one of the Archons. No key units yet. The storms haven't really hit home. The infested Terrans are allowing him to push through. A big fungal! This is what I was talking about! The fungal on the Void Rays, he holds them in place. It doesn't quite stun him, but it doesn't need to. The damage is there, but the carriers are fighting back. The Void Rays aren't dead yet. They're brought into the orange. Here come the Corruptors from the side. There are still storms. Incredible, massive storms trying to blow things away. Serral working around the corners here. The Blake Stalkers come in to reinforce. The fight continues. Is there enough on the ground? The mothership somehow survives. He actually blinks in underneath the Ultralisk. There's still a couple of the infestors underneath and a couple of mortals bashing through the Ultras. We're in a ground war now. 5 Ultralisks and 50 Lings are the Remax. The Corruptors will survive most of the fight. Showtime lives, but at what cost? More is taken out. Showtime doesn't have the money to remax. Serral does. He maintained his Corruptors, but he wiped out the Skytoss army. He wiped out the Templar. But there's no Broodlords. Broodlords may be the ultimate choice here. We're back to Banelings. That's a kill move. Serral is out of money. If he fails a couple, like, he can remax this time and one more time. If somehow Showtime holds on, as he has for 33 minutes, barely. Oh god, the entire base is being sprayed down. And what can... Does he recall? You can't recall at this point. You just gotta give it up. You gotta give it up. No more main. If he recalls, he loses his only mining. And he doesn't have money. This base needs to be retaken. Showtime does not have the money. Still no adrenal glands. Making, like, that... Not that it matters much in the main fight, but he keeps making Lings, is why this... That's so many Archons, but there are still a few Infestors for Neural and Fungal, both of which are incredibly effective. There's a handful. There's a single carrier. I don't know where that came from. Some blinks in. The Infestors are burrowed. Is there an Oracle? There is. A big tag could change this fight. The bases are falling. Showtime is essentially a one-base Protoss now. He's split between... There are the Broodlords, and this is the game ender. Serral using most of his last gas in order to get... I mean, the Broodlords can, and I almost want to say should win, but there is a scenario here where Showtime's able to take the right engagement from the right angle, and the Broodlords, he gets under the Broodlords and takes them out. Because right now, you don't need any more anti-air. Showtime doesn't even really have Stargates anymore. He just needs the anti-ground. But here comes Serral. And he can't, once again, if he loses this army, he cannot rebuild. Showtime, he can't rebuild anyways. So it's all down to this. He has to live, but the Broodlords will siege. A beautiful tank hits almost all the Infestors. This is going to have to be a miracle. Like, this... It's non-zero chance for Showtime, but it's not a high one. We've got Broodlings raining down. One Ultralisk, but one Broodlord taken out. Beautiful storms, incredible angle, gets all the Banelings. Insane storms right now. Oh my god, all the Broodlords are dying. He doesn't have a tank. The Infestors are dying to the Archon splash. There's an observer here. Showtime is trying to hold, but the Archons have turned their coats. And now they're working against Showtime. He tried to hold, but enough Broodlords survive. Enough Infestors survive. And after 35 minutes, Serral survives with not enough money to remax. He wins. And that was just game 3. So that game was effectively, I saw someone mentioning it, Keen versus Maru last night. For those who watched, that game was approximately 10 Keen v Maru series in length. Maybe about eight Keen versus Marus is how we're measuring games now.
Don't phase me below.
Thank you, Carmat7. And we're not done. Game 4. Serral on match point. Showtime has essentially done the same thing Showtime has played a similar style for 3 games in a row. Showtime has lost 3 games in a row. So, that begs the question. Does he change it up? Because even in that last game, he got close. But Catalyst is not a map where you can just sit back. It's open. The rush distance isn't very long. Taking a third base isn't easy. If Showtime sits back again, I don't see Serral. Maybe now is the time. You're up 3-0. You can risk it. If you're Serral, throw a Roach all in. Throw a Nidus. Do a Queen drop or something like that. This is the WCS Leipzig finals, all right. You're in Germany, Showtime, in front of the home crowd. What has he got? Now, Serral is just sticking with his gun. Serral, I don't mean this as a derogatory term. But Serral is a ladder hero. He's almost always, when he's playing enough, #1 on the ladder. On any ladder. Even in Korea. Well, not in Korea. I take that back. But in Europe and easily in NA if he played enough games. But he's always a cut above everyone else on the ladder. But he until recently, hasn't really been able to translate that into tournament results. And that's usually nerves. Is what that comes down to. That when you get on a stage, you don't play like you played those thousands of games in practice where you crushed most of the opponents you're playing today. It appears that is no longer the case for Serral, as he is consistently going deep in most tournaments, and, well, it doesn't get any deeper than this. Up 3-0 in the first WCS Circuit Finals of 2018. And Showtime once again going for the Stargate. That's 4 for 4. Serral looks like he's doing the same thing as well. We're playing the same game for all intents and purposes again. Again. There's some minor differences, but overall, it is very similar. We'll have to see, does Showtime add on a Robo immediately? Does he add on a bunch of Phoenixes? He went only for Phoenixes last game. This game, it's going to be an Oracle. Okay, well, there we go. Serral taking the driver's seat. He's making links, and making a lot of them with an Evolution Chamber as well. There are 2 Overlords. Does he have Overlord speed? No, but he does have 2 Ovies. Plenty of Zerglings out of Serral. He's gambling on this attack. He's only at 22 drones. He needs to do damage. He's going for the Cybercore. If he gets that before Warp Gate, he'll lose a lot of lings for the cost. He's trying to get the Oracle to activate in order to trigger that energy. There's a drop coming in. A Phoenix gonna target down the hurt Ovi. A bit of a misfire here out of Serral, but he still gets Lings in the base. He uses some of the Oracle energy, but a stronghold thus far. There's really no big transition here. He doesn't have the drones. He might have the bases, but he doesn't have the drones. The Cybercore is being targeted, but Warp Gate is seconds away. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it... Well, he doesn't even try to... The shield battery actually saves it. The shield battery was healing. There's a hard wall, and Showtime with the strong deflection. He's going to lose the Cyber, which means no more Adepts. But the Twilight Council is already on the way. The Stargate is already done. He can rebuild that Cyber Core without too much contest. He has walled himself in, but Serral put a lot of commitment into this, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work. He shut it down. That's about as bad as that could have gone for Serral. No probes killed. Okay, I take it back. 2 probes were killed. I'm not sure where, but probably a scouting probe and one other. Has not really stopped Showtime from doing anything. Didn't delay Warp Gate. Didn't delay tech. Lost Overlords. Didn't make drones. That's about as bad as it gets. Like, so Showtime is very much so in the lead here. And the Oracles are only going to compound. I love the lift on that as well. Lifts up the Queen. Makes it so the Oracles only have to contend with a Spore Crawler. Showtime supply blocks himself a little bit. But he is sitting on 43 probes against 31 drones. Serral has no tech. He's getting +1 melee attack, but there will be Archon soon. The only thing Showtime doesn't have is a Robo. And he doesn't have the third, but that's not a big deal. Well, there's the Robo. And there's the third. Wow. Crazy. It's almost like I knew. He does force a cancel. Serral getting a little something there, but he's behind. He's very behind. It is really difficult to come back from this position. Like, there's no good choice. Either you drone up a little bit and you go for a follow-up, and it looks like it's just going to be a mass Ling drop. I don't really see Serral getting Overlord speed for scouting. It's far too late for scouting. He's just got to go for, like, a mass... It looks like it's going to be mass Queen and Ling. But Showtime is already moving out with Archons against someone who only has Zerglings. So, I mean, a couple Queens... That's really bad. It's really bad. Now, Serral's going to have +1 in a moment. That will help, as long as the Zergling... I mean, this is the best engagement angle he could hope for. But the Archon's doing so much damage. It looks like Serral will hold. But at what cost? He's down by 17 workers. Showtime, he didn't really care about those units. He just wanted to trade them out for a continued lead. And, I mean, Serral did the best that he could ever hope to in that situation. But there is a Warp Prism. There's +1. There are plenty of workers. The third base is done. Serral is still in desperation mode. There's still Oracles as well. Aura Killers, really. That's a lot of Lings. If he gets the surround on the Archon... Oh, God. That's a lot of Lings. The Oracles are forced to come back to defend. +1 helps. And here come the Oracles. Ah, the Queens! Whoa! How is he... Showtime got a little greedy. Okay, wait. I counted him out. The Queens! Oh! Coming to save the day. The probes have to be pulled. Serral taking what looked to be eventual defeat and turning it around. Showtime played a little too aggressive, actually, this time. He overcommitted. Is this losing the third base? Oh, my God. I completely forgot about the Queens. Oh, the Oracle's coming up. He misses a transfuse, unfortunately. He needs to get... missing all the transfuses is a big mistake. If he had a couple more of those... No, another... The missed transfuses. If he got all those transfuses, I would say he might be able to push through them. But he did kind of miss all the transfuses, so it kind of turns around. It still looks like the third base will fall. Serral had an opportunity to turn it all around there. But... if he had been able to break through and get the third, but still Showtime falls back to more workers, better upgrades, better tech. Serral is making a game out of it, but his lair's not even done. It's going to be finishing at almost the 10-minute mark. It's been a whole lot of time bought, but is it enough? And I still think the answer, with the eventual failure of that attack and the loss of the queens, is a no. A lot closer than I thought it was going to be. But a no. Alright. It's roaches. Like, you gotta... This is another gamble out of Serral. You just make a bunch of roaches. You hope he undercommits a little bit to army. But this time, Showtime is not taking any chances. He's got the Warp Prism out. He's not going to commit his army until the Warp Prism ties units back up at home. He's going to have Storm, +2, gateways. We're sitting at 56 probes. Now, the Warp Prism is quite scouted here. 3 Overlords. He's got him triangulated, right? Oh, my God. Speaking of triangulated, those rocks are very scouted. But not anymore. The observer in surveillance mode, doing its best. Showtime, very soon now. He has his Storm. He's adding on +2. It's time to attack. All right, it's showtime. You don't want to let a Lurker Den finish up. You don't want to let Serral have that chance to bring it back here. You use the Warp Prism to tie units out of position, and then you just strike for the heart. He's got a prime opportunity to do so. The mistake I think Showtime has made, and it's so hard to say mistake because almost anyone but Serral would have not been able to win almost any of these games, but it's Serral. There are definitely a single-digit number of games, not only outside Korea, but in the world, that could actually break Showtime. But if you give Serral the opportunity, you give him anything, he's going to take it all and more. As we saw there, Showtime gave away a small army, and then suddenly it almost turned around with a queen drop. But Showtime is sitting back once again. The War Prism being deflected, the Lurker Den nearing completion, and Showtime still not moving out. Lurkers can help, but there's not. Now, another key point. Not nearly as much creep spread as we've seen in pretty much every single other game. This means the Protoss army can move around much more safely. It can't get jumped by Lurkers or some sort of surround. I don't believe he has a Bane... Oh, he does have a... Wait, does he have a Baneling Nest? He does not have a Baneling Nest. So that is not an option either. With Lurkers, you don't really want to sit back defensively. They can be picked apart, a lot of angles. They can be collapsed in on. But if you can use them aggressively, that is when they shine. If you get them in the right spot and kind of force a Protoss to take a bad fight, that's when they start ripping through. But right now, Showtime has... I mean, he's built up the Deathfall without Broodlords, even if you have Lurkers. Without Digging Claws, without Broodlords, without Banelings. I don't care how many Lurkers you have. With a dozen Storms and half a dozen Immortals with Archons in front. Good luck. Showtime once again biding his time. Maybe a little bit, being a little bit over careful after that early attack, and it's essentially a failure. And Serral being allowed, he's been allowed to max out. He doesn't have great tech. He doesn't have great upgrades. He doesn't have great creep spread, but he does have army on the field. And Showtime isn't really threatening right now. He has a Warp Prism on the side, but it's not doing anything at the moment. A good tag comes out. Oh, I don't know about this, Serral. This is not where you want to be. Here comes Showtime from both sides. The Immortals pounding through the back. The Storms ripping apart the front. The Zealots eating some of it, but they're also ripping through the Lurkers as well. That is not where Serral wanted to place his Lurkers down. Just Immortals pounding through. There was no way that was going to work. And Showtime waiting for his moment and seizing it. Now he feels confident to pound his way across the map. Double-digit Immortals. The War Prism will just be here to reinforce the army. There should be more Archons because he already has plenty of Storm. There you go. Showtime close to a max out. He's got +3 attack. He still has all of his Immortals, most of his Archons, and a lot of his Templar intact. There are no Lurkers. He doesn't even need Storm for this. Handful of Roaches. He brings it anyways. The Immortals just will live up to their names this time around. GG. Now, that's a little different. Serral went for the Ling attack, and it failed. And it failed about as hard as it could fail. Showtime counterattacked, but that actually failed too. Even though he was incredibly far behind, Serral still looked dangerous in that game. And then he tried another attack with the Lurkers and got smashed, but if Serral doesn't do that again, it still looked dangerous, even after Serral in a significant deficit early on. So that doesn't bode particularly well, but 3-1. As we go into game 5. Alright. Well, 3-1 is the scoreline. Serral still on match point and will be for the rest of this tournament. Showtime gets a little bit of a win there. And now we're on Blackpink, which is not the worst map for Protoss. That's all I can really say, but the third base is somewhat easy to defend, and picking up a fourth base is not too much trouble. Which means if Showtime wants to play that more passive style, and we saw what happened. Showtime decided to counterattack, play aggressive in the previous match. And it actually almost ended up tilting the game back in Serral's favor. It didn't.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
It didn't, but it could have. So, we'll see. He's been essentially, besides that last match, well, that last match, Showtime still went for the same style. The basics of it. There's obviously little details and little differences on the different maps and how Showtime has chosen to play it. Serral, of course, went for that Ling Rush. But overall, we still haven't seen any major deviations. Yes, he went for the Ling Rush, but then he went into a more, I guess, standard Lurker play. Showtime still going for the defensive Stargate into Immortal, Archon, Charge Lot, Templar with a Prism. Will we see him break from the Stargate play? I mean, almost no Protoss is. We're talking over 90% of games are Stargates. That's just how it is. But will we see a break from it? I don't know why I'm saying it like it's about to happen. It's going to be a few more seconds before... I don't think so. Showtime has his style, and he's going to continue to play it, and I'm sure it's incredibly successful against everyone who's essentially not Serral. Unfortunately, he's up against Serral in these finals. And that means... he's down 3-1. I'm... Okay, get back in the zone. The third base is scouted out. The probe's trying to get us around. It is going to be a Stargate follow-up. Yeah, I just zoned out there while I was talking. So, okay. Talking with yourself is hard, okay? Thank you, Nubberkins. 50 months. 50. Sounds very impressive, because it is. A little scout there. What he's trying to do with the Adept is he's trying to just get it beat on the drone count. The drone count can kind of give away whether there's going to be a lot more drones behind it. A lot more lings behind it, or if it's going to be a roach all in. Just trying to get a little bit of extra information. The Shades don't have full vision range, but they have some. And right now he's just trying to determine, am I about to die to roaches, essentially. He knows exactly when that speed finishes. Look at that. Speed is finished, and he's out of there. These Adepts should make it back home just barely. Oh my, he's actually going to risk it. Will he get the biscuit? Okay, well, he had the right idea, but the execution... Wait, oh, I take it back. The Oracle comes in for the save. A little bit of micro there. And this is shaping up. Now, no, this is different. A quick lair. He skipped Overlord speed. He kind of cut a few drones. And Serral is going for a very quick lair. Any lair that finishes at 420 is a quick lair. Not the quickest. He's not rushing it, but this is his first choice of tech, besides Zergling speed, obviously. This should be for some sort of Hydra Ling timing. I mean, there's a chance, but immediately getting the Hydra is done. This should be a low drone count, but just high-pressure attack designed to essentially not necessarily kill, but delay or deny a third base. Going for a layer this early, especially when scouted, Showtime's going to know what he's up against, or at least have a very good idea. And he's going to need more units than usual to defend. There's a Templar Archives immediately. It's going to be the Archon drop, but there may already be Hydras with muscular augments by the time that comes out. There's already Lings coming out to try to pressure a third base. Serral is at 42 drones. How many will he actually build before this is all said and done? Usually you stop around 50 if you're going to do a Hydra Ling all-in. If you're doing Hydra Baneling, you want a few more because you need to be able to mine a little bit of extra gas. But Showtime is going for a third. He is aware of the fact that Lair finished relatively quickly. More Hydras on the way. Serral's at 44 drones and a supply block here. Both the Oracles are at home, not trying to put on pressure. He wants to make sure this third base gets up and there are no hiccups, so that way it can't be canceled again and again by too many units. Ooh, a quick Lurker Den is the choice. 16 more Lings on the way. Serral really looking for this timing here. And now this is what Showtime has shown defensive proficiency. He's good on the defense. Serral, when he has a full economy, thanks for telling us. When he has a full economy, when he has access to plenty of bases and larvae and, well, over 50 drones to start, he's been incredibly good. The first 3 games were all about Serral just pumping out huge swarms of units, dropping in the main, hitting the net, attacking the 4th, slipping into the 3rd. That's awkward. But this game is not going to be about that. Just like last game, Serral looking for a timing. Showtime is putting together his defenses. He's already up in workers. The third base is going to complete. He has to hold on against the lurkers is the summary here. He doesn't know about them, but he has... Wait, no, that changeling is Serral's. Protoss can't make changelings, pro tip. But if they could... Alright. And this interruption to your regularly scheduled programming brought to you by Comcast. Welcome to Comcast. Fuck you. I did pause. So, you didn't miss anything. Five lurkers on the way.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
Yay.
Thank you, Thunder Dan. What is this? Is he Storm dropping? Showtime putting together his defenses. He has Storm done. He has a lot of Templar. The Immortal count is incredibly key. Where are the Oracles? He can have a lot of tags here. That's a lot of Storm as well. If he can get on top, it takes several Storms to kill Lurkers, but if he softens them up, the Immortals can target them down. The Spines are ripping through. He's trying to get on top of a 4th base. Now might not be the time for that, Showtime. So many Storms in the back. Serral just burrowing underneath them. I'm not sure that's the call. But Ming swinging around the back. Beautiful stasis. Blocks a lot of them out. He's trying to surround the army, but the Storms are fighting back. He's got to target them back down. The Lurkers can't be targeted down by Immortals. There's nothing left underneath. Most of the Lurkers will fall nearly immediately. Archon's on the way. The 360-degree Storms, a clutch stasis. Even the Oracle's coming into play. There's one Lurker left, and now there's none Lurkers left, as Serral has committed everything to this attack, and Showtime has plenty of probes, plenty of economy, and plenty of army to show for it. There's nothing left. Serral doesn't have the economy to follow this up. He doesn't have a 4th. He doesn't have upgrades. That was essentially an all-in attack. Showtime holds. Showtime just... He loves playing defense. Serral playing into his hand here. And now Showtime, once again, is in a winning position. He's got an Observer to see any flanks coming through. He does have a Warp Prism on the other side, and this is looking for 4th bases. But he's solidly in the driver's seat. Well, that's awkward. No 4th base here. Showtime just going to continue on his way through. Serral on this economy can't commit enough units back at home to really deal with charge lots. Either you have everything forward to attack, or you have to bring enough back to defend that an attack isn't really viable. So now he has to defend. But Showtime's at 137 supply. He's got 4 Immortals, 3 Archons, 5 Templar, 44 drones. 44 drones. 44 drones. 44 drones. That's not enough. And the units he's building, he doesn't have any Lurkers, no Banelings. Even the Archons alone, maybe. Okay, maybe not alone. But the Archons and the Immortals, even without Storm, are already fearsome here. Serral's just putting all his eggs into the Hydraless basket here. Oh my god. Where did he get all of those? How many gates? He's at 10 gates. That's multiple warp-ins of charge lots in the main. There was no vision. Probably was taken out by a Phoenix earlier. Very diligent. Some big Storms. A flank from the side. A good angle. But the Storms push everything back. Showtime can defend. I think if you're Serral, you stop letting Showtime play to his strength. You just stop attacking. That's not how you do it. Showtime, incredible on defense. No matter how many angles you flank him from, if you don't have the economic follow-up, the only time Showtime's defenses falter are on the 3rd or 4th or 5th waves of attacks. On the 1st or 2nd wave, a timing's not gonna kill him, is what we've seen. He'll survive, and then eventually you have to break him. Now, so he staves off elimination. It's 3-2. And we're going into Acid Plant. It's been match point now for the 3rd game for the WCS Leipzig Grand Final. The finish there. With dominating macro, it's Serral. And in the top left, from Germany, the solid, stalwart Protoss. It's Showtime. He needs to do it 2 more times. He was down 3-0. The reverse sweep just It seemed unlikely. It seems more likely now, obviously. But will Serral go back to his guns, which are pretty much... Showtime just doesn't attack, is the thing. There have been... The one attack Showtime did before the mid to late game, we're talking 150 supply, War Prism, Immortal, stuff like that. The one attack that Showtime truly did was when he was already very far ahead, and Serral still defended it. And that was in a couple games ago. Game 4, I want to say. So, will Showtime attack now? Every single game, he's essentially been playing defense, one way or another. I mean, do you want to gamble your entire finals on some sort of like big charge lot all in or something like that? It seems the obvious answer is no. At this point. Alright. It looks like it's gonna be a Stargate again. All signs point to Stargate. And there it is. Making a little bit of a wall off as well. The probe going to scout around looking for a third. The drone now coming out. He will push the probe away. But it looks like we're going to open up with a hatch gas pool and a gate expand in the Stargate for the 6th game in a row. A shade coming across. It's going to be Overlord speed. I haven't yet really noticed why he goes for Overlord speed on some maps and not on others. I think he's gone for Overlord speed every game that he hasn't gone for a timing attack. I'm not 100% on that. Like, the first 3 games were not necessarily timing attack oriented. He went for Overlord speed to play defense. But I'm not 100%. I haven't been paying that close attention. Alright. It does look... There are no Ling timings or Baneling busts or Roach Warrens. And Showtime not looking like he's doing anything but the Stargate. Opening up with a Phoenix. As opposed to the Oracle. But this is about as safe as you're going to get here. Wait, no. He already made an Oracle. I wasn't paying attention. Spore Crawler's on the way for Serral. They should be up within the second of the Oracle. Getting into the main. There's a Twilight. The Twilight before the Robo, which usually indicates he wants to go into the Archon drop type of style. Now does he add on? There's the Robo. Just giving all the information. He doesn't even care that Serral sees it. And Serral, no quick lair. We should see it in a second, though. No quick lair. Continuing to make drones. Lair. Wait. Lair. Lair. There it is. Ooh, a Roach one. Now, I guess correctly recognizing this could be a charge slot all-in. How much information does Serral have? He knows about the Twilight, he knows about the Robo, but a Twilight and a Robo are not thing... Showtime has made a Twilight and a Robo after the Stargate in every game so far, so... If he gets the snipe on the probe, that's a... Oh! He might be able to get his Nexus another 8 seconds quicker. Every second counts. As these players are playing at such a rapid pace. Oh, wait a second. I take it all back. He's actually going to go for the attack. He's going to pressure this base with the Roaches. And if you have Roaches, you got to use them. They're very active units. If you don't use Roaches, you just have them sitting around collecting dust. They do not age well. Roaches are not a great unit to have, especially if that's your highest tech unit. You need to put on some pressure. And, of course, an aggressive defense is not a terrible idea as well. Do we have a Warp Prism? Yes, a Warp Prism is on the map. He's got Charge finishing up. more on the way. So Serral has kind of sniffed this out. He's gotten the idea. And the roaches are going to be key for defense. He doesn't have speed done. So this is still very dangerous. And Showtime can't be losing the third base at the back. That's a lot of roaches. He decides to slam right into the center mass of them, trying to draw some charge over to the side to give his roaches more time to defend. That's not that many roaches right now, but 10 more are in the mail. The War Prism coming through and picks up a roach, but the Archon's actually going to be a little distracted. The War Prism going a little bit deep in the paint. And on this creep, even without speed, the roach count getting a bit too high. And he's going to be forced to retreat with a lot of these units. There need to be immortals at home, is the summary here. There need to be immortals. The roaches are on the chase, speed seconds away from completion. An Archon drop going to tie up some of these roaches. Another Archon on the way up. But the third base isn't 100% safe yet. There are no shield batteries here as of yet. Serral taking a fourth. What's the worker count? 58-58. So not a huge worker count, but Serral just continuing to increase it. He doesn't want to get any of these Archons sniped. That's an important point, but a nice flank here could actually take out a lot of these roaches. Oh, beautiful micro. But at the same time, the front is vulnerable. And not making a hard wall behind this. Showtime a little bit out of position. Is it time for the recall? Is it time? There we go. He's got a recall to the net. Wait, what? He recalls to the... No! He needed to recall, but he didn't have the energy to recall to the net. Oh, the Archons. Oh, a critical mistake. He's trying to wall off with the pylons, but won't complete the wall. Actually getting in, doing a lot of damage. And now his third base is vulnerable. Serral running him through. I'm not even sure. The Archons can't get through the wall. Oh, it's a disaster. All the bases being hit. 6 probes so far, but that's not going to be the end of it. Some Archons come back to this side. He should be able to hold on with the shield battery, but he has to clean up a roach infestation all throughout. He has the War Prism drop in his main, but Serral has killed 20 probes and made more drones of his own. All the lead, or all the position that Showtime had, just comes apart. He was looking good. If that recall, if he had the energy for the recall on this base, and he was able to just strongly defend all of his bases, if he keeps most of those probes alive, he's in a fine position. He's not in a great position, but he's fine. You can't lose that many probes. He has no upgrades. There's not even a forge. And now Serral has 4 bases. He's up about 40-50 supply. And this is a problem. A Lurker Den is on the way. The Archon drop going to try to find something. He needs to find something. This army will simply just kill him with the Lurkers. There aren't enough Immortals. There isn't Storm. There aren't upgrades. Showtime doesn't have a fourth. He's struggling back up with his probe count, but that's a lot of money he could have spent on units. The very first Forge begins at the 9-minute mark. +1 attack is going to be done for the Roach Hydra Lurker army. No 4th base, Serral says. All right, I'll move on with my life. A Stasis Ward is triggered. There's just not enough units, and there's not enough economy to back this up. I mean, with a couple good tags. Oh, no. He can't be losing. No! Oh, that hurts. Not only the Archons, not only the Prism, but also the ability to pull any of Serral's units back. That's a disaster. That's just one more nail. And this coffin is looking pretty close to complete. The Lurkers are just smack in the middle between these bases. You shall not pass, say the Lurkers. He has to try to go around. Where is this army going? It's taking the long road, but it's taking so long to do it. He's trying to get a flank on, but Serral is maxed out banking money. Showtime is not, and has to engage into Lurkers. I mean, he's doing it. It looks like there might just be a little too much on every side. He's holding, as Showtime has done over and over and over again. Serral is still on 78 drones, still on 5 bases, still with money in the bank, infestation pit lurkers. Showtime holds, but at what cost? Serral can do it again and again, and this is what we've seen every single game Serral has won. Showtime has held up until he hasn't, and this is looking much more dangerous than most of those games. He spots the army moving a little out of position. There's no 4th base for Showtime, and now the lurkers are in position on the 3rd. The armies are split. He's trying to get an angle. He can't lose the 3rd. This army bashed back. You can't lose the 3rd. Oh, incredible storms. Targeting down lurkers beautifully, but he's already lost 10 probes. He's trying to push through. The lurker targeting isn't perfect. It's good enough. Showtime will hold. But he's back down to 50 probes. This one roach gets through. And Serral reaching back up towards 200. He's actually kind of far off now, but 80 drones. He's on 5 bases. Hive is almost done. He can just keep going. That fight wasn't great for him. Doesn't matter. He can do it again, and again, and again, and again. And if Showtime tries to expand, it becomes more and more vulnerable, stretched more and more thinly. A tag comes out. Only the Templar being committed. On the other side, another army moving on the left side. Showtime will see it. Serral taking every base, taking every advantage, and probably at this point taking home the WCS Championship and the BlizzCon spot. This is still a big hole. Showtime has been behind ever since the counterattacks. The early attack didn't do enough damage. Serral through the middle, off to the right. There are no units here. They'll wrap around. The lurkers in position, forced to make another Archon. He storms his own Archon to try to survive. Looks like Showtime will survive on the right side, but this base is cut off. The lurkers are in between everything. The Templar not able to get the storms. And Serral, in 4-2 fashion, takes home the WCS Leipzig, or Leipzig, I'm still not sure how to say it correctly, championship in a pretty dominant fashion. Every game, Showtime defended, but for 4 games, it wasn't long enough. Four to 2 is the scoreline. GG. I think the problem was Showtime never mixed it up. He pretty much, I mean, there were some subtle differences, but essentially, the last game was the biggest difference, but he essentially did the same build every game. And Serral just macroed a little better. Like, I would have liked to see some sort of, like a 2-base Glaives follow-up or something like that. Just mix it in. It seemed like Serral just knew he didn't have to take great fights. He just had to take good fights, and eventually would win these matches. But every match felt like Showtime was just a half step behind. That's it. A half step. If Serral stops for a split second, he catches up, but Serral didn't stop. So, but still impressive defense from Showtime. And now we can talk a little bit about the changes that were made with the balance patch that 2 days after this tournament came out. Hydralisks had a nerf. Their upgrades, Muscular Augments and Groove Spines. They're 2 separate upgrades, which require 2 separate research times. So you can no longer have speed range Hydras as quickly. So would that have made the difference in these games? I don't think it would have been enough, because Serral wasn't really relying on Hydralisk timings. He was just relying on defense and then eventually out-macroing for the games he won. But it could create some more opportunities for timings for Protoss. So, I don't think the changes made in the last patch would have been the defining fact. I don't think it would have changed the score here. But it might have changed the games a little bit. I don't want to overstate it. It's really not that big of a change. And the Stalker change doesn't really matter. With them having less overall damage, because we barely saw any Stalkers built. So. But incredible macro by Serral. Every game he decided or was allowed. Well, every game he was allowed to macro, but the games he decided to macro, and by macro I mean get 4 bases, get to lair tech, have enough economy to max and remax and tech up and all of that, where he wasn't kind of beholden to a certain timing. He won every game. So in every game where Showtime only had to defend 1 or 2 attacks, he won. So we essentially played 2 types of games in this series. And Serral won all the games that went later, and Showtime won all the games that were forced to end earlier. So Serral's really good. He's really, really good, by the way. It's ridiculous. But he microed his macro. There were no flashy, really micro plays or anything. He just microed his macro, that's it. Whereas Showtime has incredible micro and very solid macro, but it was still not quite enough.